Something very funny just happened in my partner's tabletop campaign. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Read, share, repeat, where we discuss books from the perspective of an aspiring fantasy author. Me, Carrie Share. And today I am bringing you the A to Z book tag. I found this tag on Nerdy Nat Reads channel, which I will link above and below if you want to go check her video out. But the tag is much more long-standing. And I will link all the original info below as well. But I've got a feeling this video is going to be a long one, so without further ado, let's get right into the questions. First up, for the letter A, this definitely has to be T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher has a very impressive back catalog that spans genres and age categories, and I am such a huge fan of her writing that I will read pretty much anything she puts out. At this point, I think I've read 7. Let's see. Swordheart, the first 2 books of the Saint of Steel series, Thornhedge, that's 4, Nettle and Bone, and then The Hollow Places and A House with Good Bones. I think that's it. So yeah, 7. And I am only going to continue. My goal is to read my way through her entire backlist. But the problem is that she keeps putting out more books. Question 2. This is kind of hard because I am a chronic starter and incompleter of series. I like to read a lot of first entries, and I find it hard to read second and third and fourth and finishing series. So in a way, it actually made it easy because the only sequel I have given 5 stars is Sunbringer by Hannah Kaner, which of course is the follow-up to Godkiller. I have very few minor complaints about Godkiller, mostly to do with the characterization of the 4 POV characters, but all of that was cleared up in the second novel, and I feel Sunbringer really built on the originality of the first book and made it even better. And I was completely floored by the ending, and I cannot wait to get Faithbreaker in my hands later this year. Coming up really soon in a couple of weeks. Question 3. I am currently in the middle of 2 books, one on ebook and one physical. The ebook is Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson. This is the first book in the much beloved, very long Malazan series. This is a cult classic. It's very much beloved and has a very long and storied history. For my physical book, I am reading The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. This is actually a reread for me. I originally read it a couple years ago on ebook and really liked it. It was also on my list this year to buy after keeping my eyes peeled for it both at resale shops like Half Price Books and big box stores like Barnes & Noble. I was never able to find it, and I just caved and bought it online. And I'm so glad I did because I'm only like at the first quarter of the way into it, and I still really like it. I like the writing style, I like the story, I like the characters. I'm really invested. So I highly recommend this one. Question 4. I'll give you a couple hints. It's coffee. Question 5. Something very funny just happened in my partner's tabletop campaign. This one was actually kind of tough because for the longest time for me it was ebooks because that was the most convenient and the most economical option for me. In my old house, I really didn't have a lot of space for a big physical collection, nor did I have the finances to be buying books physically. So I had a fairly sizable ebook catalog. And I will say to this day, ebooks are still the most convenient for me. I can read them on my breaks at work. I can read them in the lobby of a doctor's office. I can read them at my daughter's swimming lessons. I can read them at family functions when my introverted ass gets too overwhelmed. Ebooks are very much the most convenient. However, over the last year or so, I have started to get back more into physical books since I've been able to start expanding my physical library. This feeling has especially grown since I started the annotation project, which, if you don't know, it is my goal to annotate every book I own physically. And starting that project and using it to read more deeply and connect more deeply with the stories I'm reading has really made me appreciate physical books more. I know I can annotate ebooks. The Kindle library, like the app, allows for some measure of annotations, but there's something about the physical side of it. Audiobooks are right out. I won't go into it. I just don't listen to audiobooks. I do firmly believe and support that they count as reading, just not for me. I just can't. My brain can't. Question 6. Fictional character I would have dated in high school? Okay, you're talking to someone who had one boyfriend in high school and I married him. So this is tough. Pass. Question 7. And that would definitely have to be A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. A couple years ago, after this series was getting a lot of buzz, I put out on my blog a post asking the question whether or not I should read it, knowing that I really was not a huge fan of YA. Some history, I felt like I aged out of YA when the final book in the Boy Wizard series that shall not be named came out. I was 19 and I already felt like I was too old for the genre. And since getting back into reading, I had tried my hand at a couple of other YA and it's just not to my taste. I just prefer more mature storytelling. So I asked my blog readers, would A Deadly Education be something I would like? And the resounding answer was no. So I kind of wrote it off, to be honest with you. And then I found this copy at Half Price Books. And it was just a couple of dollars. And I was trying to fill out my shelves. And so I said, why not? So I picked it up. And I believe it came up as a random TBR draw out of my Mimic sometime last year, and I read it and it really surprised me. I really liked this. I think I gave it 4 stars, and that was really only because some of Naomi Novik's writing style in this book I just felt was too interior. But apart from that, I really liked it. I liked the main character, I liked the conflict, I liked the world, I liked the romance subplot. This ended up really working for me. It has one of my favorite tropes of girls who are ostracized from society for whatever reason, usually because they are dark or violent or have a bad history, find and discover and invest in the power of friendship. And this definitely hit that for me. So yeah, this was definitely a surprise and I'm glad that I read it. I've since read The Last Graduate and gave that one 4.5, and I'm planning on reading the final book in the series, The Golden Enclaves, here in the next month or 2. Question 8. Thought a little bit about this one, but for me, it has to be Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. And only because I love this book. I love the world it's set in. I love the story. I love the magic. I love the characters. I have seen almost no one talking about it. I have heard it mentioned in passing, but no actual reviews or anyone really going into detail on this series. And it's possible, even probable, that's because I came to BookTube late. This book did come out in 2017. So I'm not saying it's not out there. I'm just saying I haven't seen many of my favorite booktubers talk about this series or even really Mark Lawrence in general. This book, I love it. When I'm trying to convince people to read this series, I describe this book as being a story about nun assassins in a science fantasy setting with really unique magic and an almost exclusively female cast with themes primarily of friendship. That trope I was talking about earlier. And I don't know what else I can say to get you to read this book, but it is so good. And I wish more people would give it a chance. Question 9. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know how long the audio was bugging, but hopefully it's fixed now. That moment definitely has to go to when I finally decided to read The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It is my personal opinion that The Fifth Season is as close to a perfect book as it is possible to be. I cannot say enough about this book. And the reason it was so important to my reading life is because I thought I would never read a more perfect book, but also because I thought I could never write a book as perfect as The Fifth Season is. And it kind of almost made me want to quit writing for a short time. And then it made me want to do it even more. I wanted to aspire to even a fraction of the greatness that The Fifth Season is. And it pushed me to do more writing and to improve my craft and to get better and to learn more and to be a writer and to be a professional. Yes, if you haven't read this book, check triggers and then read it. Question number 10. I just finished just yesterday or the day before, The Dead Cattail Assassins by P. Djeli Clark. This is a novella about a member of this guild of assassins who is given a job that seems like any other until she realizes she knows the mark. And that kind of sets off a chain reaction of consequences, not just for her and her mark, but the guild and the city at large. I really enjoyed it. The ending was kind of dark, unexpectedly dark, especially considering the tone of the rest of the book, but I enjoyed it. I think P. Djeli Clark's writing is really fun. Question 11. This might be unpopular, but anything labeled litfic, anything literary like that, I'm not interested in. I lean towards like the escapism of reading. I want fantastical settings. I want impossible quests. I want romances, and I want space battles. I want the fantasticalness, fantasy. I want the fantasy of it, which is probably why fantasy is my favorite genre. I don't want real life people talking about real life struggles and having real life problems. I get enough of that in real life, to be honest with you. And that's no shade to people who enjoy those. I definitely see why like studying the human condition in a fictional setting, in a more contemporary real life setting is interesting. That's not what I gravitate to for the pure enjoyment of reading. Question 12. That's easy. That would be Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. And I read this, if you'll believe it, in high school when I was one of those pretentious teenagers who thought I was better than anyone else because I was reading such a lengthy classic. I'm glad I did. I was a big fan of the stage musical and I wanted to read the source material. And so I did. I think I was a junior or senior in high school and I checked it out from the library and I read it cover to cover and, then I was able to go, oh, I read Les Miserables. Question 13. I really tried not to repeat books on this list, but I already mentioned it. It's the 5th season. I could not read or write anything for a month after I read this book. That might be an exaggeration, but it felt like it. It completely laid me to waste. I mean, in a good way, it was so excellent, but I could not conceive of reading or writing anything after I consumed this book. Question 14. I own 4. I've got these 2. I've got one outside of my bedroom and then one in the gaming office area that is more for our nerd stuff and my partner's books. 4 for now. I do want to get one of those rotating bookshelves for the living room, but my fear is that my cats will just go hog wild for it. So I have to be a little bit strategic with the kinds of bookshelves I'm buying. Question 15. I'll give you the book I've read the most, and that would be Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, of course. I read this at least once a year, sometimes even more often than that. In fact, I'm starting to feel the itch to read it again, especially since I've just had a run of bad luck with books lately, and I think that would really get me back into the reading mood. I've read it probably 20 times at least. Question 16. This is going to be a little bit of a shocker because my favorite place to read is in public. And not just because I want to be seen reading, but because when I am at home, there are just so many other things for me to do. I could be writing. I need to be cleaning my house. I need to be on my computer editing. I need to be doing homework. It's really hard for me to prioritize just sitting down and reading and doing something that engages my eyes and my hands. Again, I can't listen to audiobooks. So a lot of times I get type A personality guilt of I'm not accomplishing as much as I could be because I'm sitting here reading. So I tend to do my most reading in a moment where I can multitask, like when I'm at my daughter's swimming lessons or when I'm at a doctor's appointment or when I'm on my lunch break at work. I can't do anything else. I literally only, my only form of distraction is reading. I was thinking about this question, thinking, where in my house do I do my most reading? And to be honest with you, I don't. I probably get 70% of my reading done outside of my house. Question 17. Again, I'm going to be returning to Red Sister because when I say that Red Sister changed my life, it's because of this quote. This quote literally changed my outlook on how I approach new ideas and goals I have. And it says, "There are some things that must be done quickly or not at all. If someone asks you if you love them, you cannot hesitate. There are some paths that must be taken at speed. And like I said, that to me, like legitimately helped me overcome my chronic overthinking. And it was a big part of the reason that I decided to enroll in school, because I had the idea that I should go back and get my degree. I've never been to college. The longer I thought about it, the more I started to talk myself out of it. And then I remembered this quote, and I knew that if it was something I was going to do, I had to just take the plunge. And so I went online and I immediately enrolled. I got my financing taken care of and got it all done probably within 2 days after making the decision. While there were times afterwards where I questioned the wisdom of that, including almost every 8 weeks when I'm doing my final project, I would not be in the middle of getting my degree if it were not for that quote. So literally changed my life. Some paths must be taken at speed. Question 18. I think this one has to be my reading tastes being so narrow. I hate that I'm so damn picky when it comes to books, because I feel like I'm missing out on a lot of really great books, but little things are just killing my enjoyment of them, and I wish that I could just enjoy them. I think a lot of it, I think some of it has to do with the fact that I'm a writer and I am kind of editorializing as I'm reading by accident, like it's completely subconscious. Yeah, that's definitely the big one. I mean, I gave out 2 5-stars last year out of 55 books, and that is pretty standard. I don't read a lot of books that I love, and I wish that I did. Question 19. Oh Lord, this a zillion. Let's see. I actually have an unfinished series tracker specifically for this reason. Let's see how many series are on it currently. 34. I have 34 unfinished series at the moment, and I don't even know that that's updated for the books I've read recently. I, again, am a chronic starter of series and not finisher of series. Oh, I know. Easy. The Farseer trilogy. I read this book in like 2018, and it was a 5-star. I really loved it, and it's been the only book that has made me cry as an adult. I'm pretty sure that's true, the only one. Although, to be fair, it was over an illustration of a dog at the very end, if you know, you know. But yeah, this book was, at the time, it was the book that I wanted to write. I wanted to write a book exactly like this, with the high politics and the low magic and the character-driven part of it. I really need to finally finish this series. I've bought, so many of Robin Hobb's other books, like, and later series, but I have to go back and reread this one because it has been so long. Yeah, this one is definitely top of that list. Question 20. I've mentioned 2 of them already. Pride and Prejudice, obviously. Red Sister, obviously. And then the third one, Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. And you want to know a fun fact? This is my original copy. And I'm not going to show you all of it, but that is my maiden name that I wrote in this book when I was, 10. So this is a rare physical object that I have carried with me since my childhood. I have moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and it's lasted this long. I love this book, and I honestly credit this book with my love of fantasy specifically. And I even remember at the age that I read this book originally thinking that it was almost a waste that Gail Carson Levine did so much incredible world building for a middle grade Cinderella retelling. And I still think it holds up today. Okay, I'm running out of battery, so we gotta do this quick. Question 21. I already mentioned my favorite trope, which is female friendship, especially when one of those women are have been ostracized and don't have many friends, or have written off the idea of friendship for whatever reason, or don't think they're worthy of friendship. I love it when they find friendship. Give me all of it. I also love the idea of a certain aspect of fated mates, not the mate part, take that word out of it, but the idea of 2 characters having a magical bond that draws them to each other, and they have to question whether or not their feelings that are developing for one another are because of the bond or because of the person. I love that drama. I love it. I love it. I don't love the mate part. I don't love, all of that stuff, but I do love the idea of a magical bond and those people falling in love and having to question the source of that love. Give me all of it. Question 22. And that would definitely have to be the Ashfire King. That would be the follow-up to The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. I found this Fairy Loot signed edition at Half Price Books for $20. Yeah. And so when Fairy Loot announced pre-sale dates for Ashfire King, I opened the page and it has been open on my computer ever since because I am going to be in that queue immediately to get the matching copy of the Ashfire King. I really liked this book. I didn't quite give it a 5-star. I think I gave it 4.5 star, but it was my favorite read of 2023. I love Middle Eastern inspired fantasy. I love the 1001 Arabian Nights retelling aspect of it. I love that the main male character is the weak one. He's the coward. He's the one who's kind of wishy-washy and not really firm. I love that kind of like switching of like the traditional, what you'd think of stereotypes. I love it. I love the relationship between Luli and Kadir, her Jinn friend. Love this book. I'm so excited for Ashfire King. I was devastated when I read this book and realized and learned that the sequel would not be out for 2 years. Question 24. I would have to say starting and stopping of series, reading the first book and not picking up a sequel for sometimes years at a time. I am someone who likes to have a break between series entries. I don't read a lot of books in a series back to back because I do find that I tend to get a little bit bored and tired and weary of the world and the setting and the characters if I'm reading, 800 pages back to back of it. So I do take breaks on purpose. Then I get distracted, or then I just don't feel the motivation, or it's been too long, and then I have to reread, which then restarts the cycle. So that would probably be my worst habit. Number 24. Start at the top left of your bookshelf and pick the 27th book. Oh, Lord. Okay, number 27 came out to Sorcery and Small Magics by Maija. Please let me know how to pronounce that. Maija Ducey. This, of course, is a Fairy Loot edition. I know it is a queer romantasy about musicians and music-related magic. I've heard it's pretty cute. I really do need to start reading some of these Fairy Loot editions. They're just up on my shelf looking pretty. Question 25. My latest book purchase is so new, it's still in the box. So I'm going to open it real quickly and show you. It is We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars by Hafsa Faisal. I just read We Hunt the Flame a couple of weeks ago, and I got it from the library, and unfortunately my hold was running out rapidly, and so I kind of was speed reading it, and I think that affected my enjoyment of this book, particularly the ending. I did give it 3.5 stars, but I do think that I would have liked it more if I had more time with it. And what a better way to spend more time with it than to buy it physically and annotate it. And finally, question number 26. I'm gonna go with kind of a different answer for this one and say From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I hated that book. Hated it. Hated it so much. I hate it so much that to this day, if I see like a rant video on that book, I will immediately watch it. I don't care who it is. I don't care if we agree on anything else. I am here for any dragging of that book. And I stayed up late. I was like 1 o'clock in the morning when I finished it. And I really only finished it because it was like the sunk cost fallacy where I had invested too much time in it. And then after I was done reading it, I immediately got on my blog and posted like a 1,000-word rant review of it because I hated it that much. I stayed up late for all the wrong reasons. I really should just have DNF'd it. It was very much not to my taste. Not to my taste in every conceivable way. If I could go back and delete that book from my memory, I would, except that then I might be tempted to try it again. So I'm glad that I can't. My battery's all out, so thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe or consider leaving a comment down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please drop me a suggestion for my next video in the comments because it is coming up later this week and I still don't know what I'm doing. So I hope you look forward to whatever it is, and I'll see you then. Bye.